Okay, so last lesson we talked about the 3 basic vertical strokes. We're going to focus on the 2 broader basic lateral strokes in this lesson. And a lot of times when people start teaching brushes, they'll teach like stirring the soup. Like the first thing I learned was play the whole clock face and stir the soup. That's great, we'll get to that later, but I think the most critical thing is really mastering these 2 basic lateral strokes. And lateral refers to we're moving side to side, right? So the first lateral stroke we're going to do is a flick. Right? And for all these, I should mention, we're really thinking about using either our wrist like this or moving our whole arm, right? If you're suffering from arthritis, fibromyalgia, things like that, and you have tension in your wrist, I recommend as you're practicing using your whole arm. If you are dealing with that, I recommend really keeping the wrist loose and doing this. Okay, so let's talk about the first movement, which is the flick. And this is a flick, 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 flick. It's almost like you're flicking something out of the way. So flick to the right, flick to the left, flick to the right, flick to the left. And then we have a sweeping motion where it's more of a gentle sweep. Don't worry about how much surface area on the drum head you're using. Just get used to those movements. And I always like to think about it as turning a doorknob. So think about you're turning a doorknob either this way, so flick outward to the right, or turn the doorknob to the left. That's a flick to the left. So flick, flick. Here we go. Right, so those are flicks. So, and really focusing on minimizing the amount of time the brush is on the drum head. This is kind of like a flick sweep. I'm leaving it on a little too long, so really as little time as possible. And then we have a sweep where I'm doing the opposite. Instead of minimizing the amount of time the brush is on the drum head, I'm maximizing it. Sweep, 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 sweep. And again, I'm thinking about doing this. You can either, again, use your arm or use your wrist, right? So sweep, 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 sweep. So the most important exercise, don't even worry about, stirring the soup and figure eights and all that kind of stuff. Forget about that. First and most important exercise is do 8 flicks and 8 sweeps. And maybe bring the camera a little more towards me so you can also see there you go, perfect. That's great. So I'm going to do 8 flicks and 8 sweeps. If you're right-handed, start with your right hand. So flick, 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 flick. Keep good time. Sweep, 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 sweep. Next hand, flick, flick. So even with the left hand, I'm still doing to the right and to the left. Flick. Now sweeps. Sweep to the right, sweep to the left, sweep to the right. Now it's very important to practice with the metronome because the tendency I've noticed with a lot of my students is they'll slow down when they're sweeping. The tempo starts to drag. So think about 2, 3, 4, sweep, 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 sweep. Make sure you're starting right on the sweep. So the articulation when the sweep starts is right on the beat. You don't want to go or, right? Don't start after for the beat. And so that's really going to help because even when you're doing these lateral strokes, doing them in time is critical. Now, once you do these in isolation, just 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Then you can start doing rhythmic patterns. So, for example, you might just do a stream of eighth notes, right? So I'm doing like a bossa nova, let's say. I'll demonstrate real quick. So I'm doing, right? I might do a mixture of sweeps and flicks. So I'm doing that flick. I might just say, okay, let me just do eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Eighth but sweep. Right? Then you might do isolated rhythms like 1E and 3E and. So I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and rest, 3 and 4, 1, 2, sweeps, 2, 4, 2. So I'm doing something like even like a cumbia, like a I might do that with more of a flick because it emulates a wiro, right? Right? Or sweeps, right? A wiro. Right? So all these different patterns are really rooted in these basic, get your sweeps, or sorry, your flicks really in time, and your sweeps really in time with both hands.